Hi everyone, thank you for joining. We're just going to wait for a few minutes for more participants to come through and then we'll get underway. Right, hello everyone and thank you for coming. Welcome to our webinar on an introduction to Copilot. We'll give it another minute just for any late comers and then we'll get the agenda run through. Then I'll introduce our guest speaker today and then we'll run you through Copilot and what it can do for you, and hopefully give you some ideas on how to get the most out of LLM and AI systems. Right, so let's get started then, shall we? Pedro, are you okay if we start getting to it?
That's right. You want to go straight in the agenda then? Straight off the bat, mate?
Yes, please.
Let's go.
Okay, so brief agenda for today. We'll take about an hour to go through this list of items here, followed up by a Q&A. We'll try to get as many questions answered as possible towards the end, but if we can't, we'll follow up collectively with anything we can't get around to finish. And if anyone else would like any further conversations, just get in touch. This is being recorded, and we'll also share a copy of the recording for anyone who either has to dip out, misses a piece, or for those that can't make it as well. So feel free to share it with your colleagues. So we're going to do some brief introductions. Myself, our guest speaker today, a bit about SBS, and then we're going to go into the Work Trends Index, which Pedro will go into more detail on. What is Copilot, and just give you a brief overview of that, and then some in-depth demonstrations around the Microsoft suite. So as you can see there, we're going to cover Outlook, Teams, Excel, and Forms. And also an agent piece, which is a new piece that came in this year to complement Copilot. That's pretty cool. Some prompting basics, so giving you ideas of how to get the most out of Copilot, and it's to do with how you word your prompts effectively. So how you structure the question or the phrase on what you want Copilot to do. We're going to share with you some resources and a promotion towards the end of the webinar, and then we'll follow up with a Q&A. So there is a Q&A option in the at the top of the screen. Feel free to post your questions in there. As I say, we'll get through as many of those as we can. Okay, so speakers for today. Myself, I'm Danny, co-owner of SBS IT, and we are have the privilege, should I say, of Pedro today. He is a partner consultant we have access to, a specialist in AI solutions, and he's going to run us through Copilot and give you all hopefully a breadth of knowledge that you didn't have before. All right. Pedro, did you want to say anything briefly about yourself?
Yeah, just quickly, just pretty much not much more to echo for what Danny's mentioned, but yeah, pretty much AI business solutions specialist kind of in the main. So great to kind of meet you all. Thank you so much for kind of joining the session as well. We had a lovely weekend to come in straight into a bit more of a training kind of on Copilot. So everything that Danny's mentioned, we'll run through pretty much the kind of a great little bit of a gist for you guys to get an understanding of Copilot, how it kind of works, some of the value proposition out of it as well for those that kind of more in the finance sector. So definitely kind of a lot of things to kind of run through today, but we'll go through pretty much absolutely everything, and any kind of questions we can hopefully answer them at the very end too.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. So shameless plug from ourselves. We are SBS IT, managed IT support service provider based in the UK. We've been going for 15 years, serving the SME market all throughout the UK. We partner with all major vendors, Microsoft, HP, Dell, Cisco, and more. And we focus mainly on IT managed services and consultancy. Our USP is responsive, reliable, and personal IT support for all types of businesses. So that's us out of the way. Let's get into it.
Brilliant. Thanks, Danny. Let's get straight into it, I suppose. So yeah, team, love to have you kind of all on the kind of the call. Thank you for making it. And yeah, going straight into kind of Copilot, essentially, the one thing I love to look at is the work trend index. This is something that Microsoft pretty much, agglomerates pretty much every single year. A bit of a trend pattern going across, surveying over 31,000 different people across 31 different countries. So they analyze a lot of different kind of the hiring trends across the likes of LinkedIn. They study kind of productivity patterns on a global fixture as well to really kind of understand how different things are shaping. How is AI kind of changing kind of the way of the workplace entirely, from the likes of startups, economists, all the way through even towards academics, and how that kind of feature subset, how AI is really radically changing kind of the lifestyles. Definitely changed it for me and for a lot of us as well. And if you guys are also kind of utilizing AI tools at the moment, maybe different products and not necessarily kind of Copilot at the moment, maybe we could change that, but it all depending on kind of how it works for you as well, especially more from a corporate setting. But yeah, this trend index is very, very useful. I will definitely share the links kind of post this meeting as well, so that you guys can basically go into it and have a little bit more of a look into kind of what are some of the more of the trends, a lot of different forecasts in terms of what it does go through. So always great to start from this one, because there are a few little stats to throw at you in terms of what's changing, what Microsoft literally kind of figured out as well from the past year through the likes of trends that we can see now. So one of the biggest things is that business kind of demands outpace human capacity. It's the biggest thing at the moment, and some of these kind of stats are quite interesting to see kind of how things are changing, especially kind of in the workplace. You've got, kind of an alarming figure right there, 275 kind of average number of times employees are interrupted by kind of emails and your meetings, which is pretty much works out as once every 2 minutes. Notifications come through your phone. You're working, you've got so many different things, whether that's your social media. The distractions are always coming kind of into place. So it's kind of interesting how we've got all these things happening kind of at the same time, and how things are changing massively, especially when it comes to the likes of digital debt. If you guys have, obviously everyone's probably had a little bit of digital debt, also kind of going into the overburdening as well of working so much, and you kind of pushing those hours through. You're going from your kind of your CRM database going into your roles in general, where it's kind of you're selling different types of products, meetings, communication back and forth. It's a huge amounts of digital debt that you're kind of focused on with multiple different applications on a daily basis. So that's what kind of derives towards the terminology of digital debt, and obviously kind of burnout as well through the most use of that. And on top of that, we've got all these interruptions that do take place too, which is absolutely kind of huge. So yeah, the demand's absolutely huge at the moment, especially kind of towards that human capacity layer. And this is where AI starts to fit in to really kind of be a piece of that puzzle. You've also got other stats that also showcase 122% increase the number of edits in kind of PowerPoint in the 10 minutes before a meeting. We've all been there. I've definitely been there quite a few times, in my time. When it comes to kind of those meetings, you want to make sure everything's all kind of wrapped up. I'm pretty sure we actually did that with Danny just before this one as well a little bit. But of course, it's always worth you want to make sure everything's kind of, absolutely crystal, but also like how that's kind of fundamentally changing going forward too. You've got 60% of the portion of meetings that are kind of ad hoc, called in the moment itself, spontaneously, always does happen. So yeah, it's also about like kind of how those are taking place and kind of how, are you prepared to kind of jump onto that spontaneous meeting and have those types of, I actually noticed we had a few AI transcribing tools kind of jumping into the session as well. And you can see, some folks may be using that. Maybe someone's kind of, a few folks on the call today are using kind of OneNote, a notepad, even some more of those kind of legacy kind of formats too. So also understanding how you guys are going in and kind of taking notes in kind of meetings is quite interesting. But yeah, that portion of how those ad hoc meetings are kind of mentioned are quite interesting too. But also 58 number of chats sent daily outside of the typical 9 to 5 kind of work day. It's a 15% increase year over year. Coming in literally after that kind of 5 p.m. Of course, if you folks are working till 5 or even more beyond that, it seems like the actual working time has always kind of massively changed and increased, if anything, especially around the likes of kind of AI. We're working even more harder, especially we're working from home, that kind of hybrid lifestyle. Yes, absolutely brilliant, because you've got the, that hybrid life that you can actually do kind of your routines and work from home. But in some cases, we work even longer as a result of that too. So definitely kind of some adverse aspects to this related, but overall the demand for that kind of the outpace of human capacity at the moment is at the utmost as well going forward. This is also kind of an interesting kind of thing I've pulled out through the trend index, but it's like, why do you turn to AI over a kind of a colleague? Quite an interesting kind of question to kind of mention. And it's when you start really thinking about some of these tangibles, it actually does start to make a little bit more sense. 42% pick 24/7 availability. The fact is, if I am trying to kind of message anyone in my team in that moment in time, they may be in another meeting, they may be kind of away and not available. Or if I'm in the office, again, same kind of perspective. Even if you're in office or you work from home, that availability factor is absolutely huge when it comes to the likes of AI. You've got 30% obviously machine speed and quality. If I'm asking any one of my colleagues, once again, kind of a different question or whatever it may be, it may take some time before I get kind of a response. They may not even know the answer as well in general. So that's kind of another thing whereby it takes even longer in order before I do get kind of that answer back too. So speed and quality is definitely going to be there because it's unmatched, especially with the new updates coming through with GPT kind of 5.0. That speed and the efficiency, especially with how integrated it starts to get as well, is absolutely kind of fluent. And the accuracy is a lot more kind of closer to that 100% than we've ever had before. But again, speed is absolutely crucial. Sometimes you need that kind of answer immediately in that setting, in that timing, so that you can go back to whatever may be opportunities, meetings, and in some cases, really kind of getting the job done to a certain degree. 28% endless stream of ideas on demand as well. You can really kind of utilize that AI to that next level, really kind of brainstorming, understanding different kind of ideas that you may have not thought before. And again, it still interlinks with the speed and quality of those ideas that you may be looking forward, to kind of, doing as well in terms of, especially if you guys are in sales and you're trying to work out how to kind of really coordinate conversation, you know what I mean? Instead of pitching towards, different kind of folks in the businesses as well. Utilizing the likes of AI can help a lot more. How do I make this tone sound a little bit more better so that someone does go in and pick up kind of an email, pick up a message, instead of the usual trend and kind of context that, everyone gets kind of an email. Not everyone's going to pick that up. You know what I mean? 10, 15 emails coming in every few seconds, in a given day for those particular people. It can be quite alarming. So yeah, how do we kind of change that? And of course, AI can be a huge benefit in that circumstance. The other kind of funny bits that I actually kind of like on the right hand side is 16% friction with colleagues, which yeah, it's been a while, I suppose, with frictions, but everyone's had certain frictions with kind of colleagues, kind of over the years in the course of your lifetimes, definitely. But it's interesting that that's actually been placed as kind of one of the reasons why you would turn over to AI. but also the demands of kind of colleagues as well, 15%. They've got other focuses to do, and within their own daily jobs. So sometimes you go overburdening them with more kind of questions that you're trying to kind of put onto the kind of the equation can be quite difficult as well going forward. So yeah, that's kind of another big piece, but also 8% kind of credit hogging as well, and kind of taking that kind of credit going forward, which is interesting that you would have that as a stat that people would kind of utilize. Yeah, quite interesting in terms of some of the stats that are coming through. But more so, what's really quite interesting is the areas of accelerated AI investment. Where are the pieces of AI investment that are starting to go into as well? Definitely across all these kind of particular areas, but top three: product development, customer service, and marketing. Again, going into that marketing process about how to get things kind of across as quickly as possible in the best fashion and speed. That's where kind of AI is really taking the foothold as well. And it wouldn't surprise me if cybersecurity starts coming into these top three very, very, very soon as well, post that 6 to 12 month period, this was taken pretty much in the beginning part of this year. But yeah, going forward, we've seen so many different cybersecurity threats, and that's a big, huge piece as well to the puzzle, whereby AI is really starting to fundamentally come into these kind of industries now and really kind of starting to take effect. Why? Because you think of it like a bit more of a security operations center, right? As a human, you going in and working, we're humans, right? We need sleep, we need food, we need a break. We can't work, physically 24/7 all the way through. It's impossible. You could try, but yeah, it's the coffees will definitely not help to keep you kind of awake all the way through, and you obviously can't take that all the way through going into that too. So obviously having the likes of kind of AI coming in and literally working, respectively all the way through those hours, picking up details and really kind of doing those automated searches, kind of investigation, remediation kind of plans, that's where the AI is really kind of taking a foothold massively going forward too. So cybersecurity is kind of an interesting one as well, even though 27% still quite a high stat in terms of where we're seeing the investments coming through the chain. And sales, obviously, I've been in kind of sales quite a lot throughout my journey and kind of in the workplace, and obviously, yeah, AI kind of in sales, absolutely huge. How I'm connecting with different people, how I'm selling different things as well, and the use of the likes of meetings, Teams, which you're going to see in a few of my demonstrations as well today, how you can literally utilize that to pick up notes so that you can action those notes as well afterwards, after those meetings, to go for, towards those kind of customers that require kind of assistance. So really, really huge. And especially this one as well, which I also really like, is the customer insights. Understanding different, instead of trying sometimes to pick up the phone and cold call and really qualify different things, you can get literally AI like the likes of Copilot and the researcher agent to really dig in the details of insights, which are very, very useful, so that when you're having those conversations, you can it's not more of a stuttering kind of aspect when you're picking up the phone. You have a bit more of an insight in terms of what you need to talk about and what you need to do. So yeah, it's incredible in terms of the direction, in terms of the investments and what's being made over the course of the next 6 to 12 months as well, going forward on this piece. Now, going into Copilot, specifically Copilot, the first slide I always love to talk about is trust. And I think it's huge because it talks about like kind of security, fundamentally kind of, all the competency that you have when it comes to Microsoft in general. Many people on this call might be using multiple different types of AI kind of tools as well. We'll get into that kind of, in terms of the comparisons between, different types of AI tools, specifically ChatGPT. If we got any ChatGPT kind of users on the call as well. I know over the course of this, the past 12 months, I've known a lot of people utilize ChatGPT for, the likes of, finding out different types of information and ingesting a lot of information into that engine. Now, of course, you start to do that, there's a lot of different things and risks to take in consideration when you're starting to go down that kind of that rabbit hole, because of course trust isn't always there when it comes to other AI tools as opposed to what you get with Copilot. And we'll run through what that means and what that looks like. But of course, sticking to Copilot is pretty much your data is your data. If you guys are all users of Microsoft in general, it's going to run on that same ecosystem. If you've got Defender for Plan 1, Plan 2, security kind of bolt-ons and everything, that runs through the likes of Copilot automatically as well. So these are kind of important points to kind of mention, because Trust and security is one of the biggest things. Again, let's interlink cybersecurity, also a huge, huge piece of the puzzle, but very, very important. It's been one of the hottest topics, especially like some Marks and Spencer's, North Face, Adidas, some very, very big enterprise type, level enterprise or even kind of huge brands, well known over the course of the years. And still, through the likes of a few kind of mistakes, anything can happen. Unfortunately, that human level and error is still intermittent, no matter what. So we need to ensure that everything is entirely protected. So the likes of other AI agents, if you're going in and starting to kind of plug in and ingest information, a lot of the other times when you're using those kind of other applications, most of your data is actually transcending into the online directory. So the visibility is absolutely available to everyone to kind of access and to see, which is the kind of the danger when it comes to really important information. If you're ingesting the likes of financial kind of information from your company data, that's where it starts to get a little bit risky and a little bit scary too. So of course, the likes of Copilot, you don't really have to worry on that. It really kind of runs on the trust factor, that your data is protected by the most comprehensive enterprise compliance security controls automatically through those subscriptions that you guys already have in the Microsoft realm. So ecosystem wise, absolutely huge. If you guys are native Microsoft users, Copilot is definitely the one for you, especially when you're utilizing corporate data on a daily kind of occurrence, whether it's summarizing your emails, whether it's ingesting kind of Excel spreadsheet data, finance, whatever it may be. This is where you want to kind of be when you start to utilize these kind of products as well. But also the fact it doesn't actually train foundational AI models, unlike other AI tools which actually do train that, and then of course do complement that by uploading all that data to the online directory. That's where you've got the likes of Copilot that can basically be not used in that sense to kind of train the foundational AI model, but also be utilized in that corporation behind closed doors. That's kind of obviously one of the biggest points when it comes to Copilot that not a lot of people do know. And in fact, I've had a lot of conversations about this as well, that folks didn't even know that, of course, the likes of ChatGPT and other tools, of course, in the market do obviously leak data. So that's kind of a big thing to bear in mind if you guys are looking and thinking of going towards Copilot in general as well. But also, what's the huge part of Copilot as your own little personal assistant that kind of works alongside you, that tries to kind of understand how to work around you in different kind of ways and how to best utilize it? There is a huge return of investment and experience the likes of Copilot. We saw with some of the stats earlier in terms of why we would turn towards kind of AI instead of a colleague. But of course, it's these three kind of pivotal kind of areas that I would say it's the biggest part: speed, quality, and effort. The speed is absolutely huge. Completing tasks at a much more faster pace. Instead of me proofreading, emails on end, like I literally came back from holiday about just over a week ago, and of course, when it comes to summarizing kind of multiple different types of emails at a much more faster pace, there's nothing better than that as well. Of course, that's gone a little bit more ahead than what I wanted to, but speed is absolutely huge in terms of what you get out of kind of Copilot, which is absolutely brilliant as well. So really kind of optimizing those processes as much as possible, but also the quality, the accuracy that I get through the likes of Copilot to really go in and summarize information, to rewrite different types of emails to make it sound better. Danny probably knows that because he knows all my emails are quite nice and fancy and articulated. But of course, the quality is absolutely there that you do get to the likes of Copilot. So it's absolutely brilliant. But this is kind of a really kind of key point I'd like to mention, is that enables less experienced, skilled workers to achieve success. Folks that are coming out of the likes of university, they don't have many skills in different types of things. They've just, coming out into the kind of the real world, for example. And it's more so for them coming in to understand kind of how they likes to use, the Excel spreadsheets, going into more of the kind of the data driven kind of formulas, conditional formatting, whatever it may be. The aspect of kind of Copilot can be very heavily utilized in that sense, where you can replace and kind of fill those gaps in knowledge, in skills. So really kind of enabling kind of less kind of experienced and skilled workers to kind of even get to the roots of success through that, where it's kind of, tapping into the resource of, sales and selling to different types of people and audiences to kind of gravitate them into conversations. Copilot can be very useful in that sense too. Obviously not going to do all the work for you, but it's going to give you kind of the tools and the assets to kind of make your life a lot more easier and make it a lot more better in terms of how it's kind of driven. It likes to go on this slide for some reason, I'm not too sure why. But you've also got the effort piece. The effort piece is absolutely brilliant because then you can achieve a lot more with less. It's working smarter is obviously kind of the best approach rather than kind of working harder. And this is something that you do get and you achieve with the likes of Copilot. Why not just utilize Copilot, because it'll get it done. It'll give me what I need, reduces mundane tasks. Administration perspectives as well is huge. A lot of people leave it. Admin tasks towards the end of the day. It's like 5 o'clock and we need to go in and start putting data in our CRMs. And then of course, what happens when we've got an overrun call? You know what I mean? And, basically our times start to change a little bit as well. And all of a sudden we cannot go in and kind of utilize that time for admin tasks. So why not kind of, reduce that through the likes of Copilot to be able to get that kind of done as well. So again, you've got an increase in kind of job satisfaction through that, because as we mentioned at the beginning of this call, digital debt then is massively reduced as a result of kind of Copilot coming in and really assisting us with multiple different applications, different screens, to really give us the information we need on time with good speed, good quality, and amazing effort on top of everything else too. So huge types of benefits that we are starting to see across the aspects of kind of Copilot, but acceleration and growth, cost savings, cost avoidance, as well as employee retention. As they say, happy wife, happy life. It's also kind of, having kind of a happy setting is going to give you kind of a better kind of a workplace as well going forward, so that you can keep on going forward with the likes of kind of Copilot. So that's kind of the experience that you do get through the likes of that. So always interesting to see kind of what the return of investment truly is when you start to use that application. But going into the experiences, the huge big thing as well when it comes to kind of Copilot, for those of you that have not seen Copilot too much, of course, is split into the different kind of experiences that you can have across your work, your web, and your in-app chat functionality as well. Now, this is the beauty, and this is where I would say this is the key differentiator when it comes to the likes of Copilot, how it's built into your ecosystem. As I mentioned, if you guys are kind of native kind of Microsoft users, you're utilizing multiple different kind of applications between your Teams, your PowerPoints, your Outlooks, whatever it may be. Now, this is where the integration of Copilot is absolutely huge across each of these. For other kind of competitors in the field, of course, you still have a kind of complete separate kind of browser, complete separate application whereby you have to copy paste constantly between back and forth between your prompt and your answer to kind of be able to utilize it. Well, of course, the effectiveness of having an in-app chat functionality is that you can literally just click on Copilot within the application and you can ask it prompts in that setting, which is absolutely brilliant, because it's got so much use to have that native functionality within your applications. Absolutely huge and brilliant across all of them. And you'll get a bit of a taster momentarily, of course, how that looks like and how that works. But also, similar to other competitors in the field, you also do have your own Copilot application, which is absolutely brilliant as well. So you can achieve quite a lot of different things through the Copilot application, which is absolutely brilliant, through kind of obviously utilizing your prompts, sharing your prompts with colleagues, which will show you kind of momentarily as well how that looks like, and what you can essentially do within there through creating your own videos, your photographs as well, which you can then use for the likes of folks that are in marketing on this call, and creating your own kind of posters and videos has never been easier through the likes of kind of the creation tool as well built into Copilot, and you'll get a bit of a glimpse into that and how that looks like going forward. But yeah, essentially having the application itself of Microsoft 365 Copilot app is absolutely brilliant. You've also got the Copilot chat kind of experience as well, whereby it's just basically the normal standard chat version, which is completely free, that you guys can download today as well. That gives you kind of a great little bit of a teaser in terms of how it works and the usual standard kind of approach of kind of Copilot, but then you can go more beyond by getting the application as well as the in-app chat functionality, which is then the base license cost as well, which we'll cover momentarily in terms of what that looks like as well. So you guys do have a bit of an idea in terms of numbers and how it kind of works, as well as some interesting updates coming through with the likes of Copilot as well going forward into October time. The other basic kind of great thing to kind of mention is the basic architecture. I don't want to get too technical because I don't want to lose people kind of on this call and get them to fall asleep. But very kind of simple. There's nothing kind of too crazy about Copilot in terms of how it works. And essentially, like we mentioned, you go into your application and you've got kind of your little Copilot that sits at the very top as well of your kind of screen, which is quite nice. So it's built into your native applications like your PowerPoint, your Teams, and your kind of Outlook and Excels. So in Outlook, of course, top right hand corner, I can go and click into the into the Copilot button, and then that's where I can start typing in kind of potentially a user prompt. So a prompt being, can you go in and summarize all these kind of different types of emails since I've just come back from holiday, and it's going to go and do that for you, of course, but you can get a little bit more definitive in terms of what you truly want to get out of it. And that's the big thing. You want to make sure that all your prompts are put in as much details as you can to get the most out of it. Pretty much the same with anything in life, but of course, especially with this, to get the data that you want, you need to make the most of it in terms of those kind of prompts. So, of course, going in and adding kind of that command or that action to kind of Copilot, of course, it then kind of feeds into the Microsoft Graph. So the Microsoft Graph essentially is where all of your kind of your data sits as well. It's pretty much where everything is kind of, represented, your connections, everything that you do and type and utilize in the Microsoft ecosystem gets recognized by the Graph. So it's pretty much where all your data is stored, OneDrive, SharePoint, everything entirely, whereby you can literally come in and utilize this data whenever you need. So, for example, and this is kind of great because you don't get this kind of feature subset across other competitors in the field as well. So, of course, if you're using the likes of ChatGPT, it cannot tap into your Microsoft Graph. You have to ingest all the information to ChatGPT in order to be able to get all the information out for what you need. Now, with the Microsoft Graph, of course, and Copilot, if I'm going in and asking Copilot within a particular kind of several different emails, I want to ask it, can you please go in and start looking at, Teams chats since June, since July, whatever it may be, a different kind of aspect, different spreadsheet across different applications within my data. Not only is it going to kind of go in and summarize the stuff, within my particular email, but if I've requested to look at other places to find that data, it's going to find it for me and kind of bring it into that conversation as well, which is absolutely brilliant so that it can feed into it. So basically everything you put into it and everything you ingest in terms of your prompt and your description of what and the command is going to also sift into your Microsoft Graph and find the information to give you more of an intelligent response, which is really quite useful. So I'll ground through your data, and then of course it'll go through the large language model as well. So it'll go through systematically kind of understanding how to kind of interpret user kind of written information, which is brilliant because we can really interact with Alexa Copilot now as well, back and forth. So really kind of asking more questions. Once you put in the first prompt, maybe you want to ask another question and get something kind of different out of Copilot. Of course, this is where you got more of the contextual kind of type reasoning, whereby it does start to provide intelligent suggestions on the back end for within that as well. So that's what the large language model really is before you get your actual output from it as well. So yeah, it's quite straightforward. It's not complicated by any means, but this is what you pretty much get in a nutshell when it comes to Copilot and how it effectively works from an architecture standpoint. I might have lost a few people kind of just from that, but just to give you a bit of an idea in terms of what the architecture does look like and what you're doing with your data. I think that's the key and most important thing. The moral of the story, essentially, if you utilize Copilot, is that you have this trust and this foundation of what it's doing, where your data is essentially going and staying within that particular ecosystem. So yeah, and of course, where that source information is being processed as well. Going a little bit more forward, I'm just checking on time as well. I think we're all good. Nice little easy, I think it's half an hour. But of course, then we've also got the kind of the licenses now that are available. So nice little kind of diagram going through what you kind of do get. So of course, you do have your free Copilot chat, which you can, come in and utilize as well. And now this is kind of, you can come in and download this kind of immediately. I think Danny will also kind of showcase how you guys can do that if you kind of want to go into get just the free version and showcase how that works. But you get your foundational capabilities. You still get some form of web grounding. It won't go into the full grounding aspect in terms of your actual data, but it can go through web grounding in terms of sifting data into the web, but it will not ground your own personal data for what you have in your SharePoint, your OneDrives. But of course, also you do have that data protection that you still have that comes intact, even with the free version, which is brilliant. And that's another huge piece to mention that a lot of people don't realize when you're going in and asking different prompts for Copilot, or you going into kind of different types of AI tools. It's also understanding where that link is going to take you. Could it take me to a malicious website? etc., etc., etc. And it could do, like, that's the big thing, right? It's kind of, you got to make sure that, where does that kind of go? Now, this is outside of the footprint of Copilot. Within Copilot, of course, you're completely protected, but especially if you've got the likes of Plan 1 and Plan 2 with business premium type subscriptions, that comes automatically within here as well, which is absolutely brilliant. So, of course, anything malicious will be kind of flagged up to let you know that you don't want to kind of go in and access that kind of site too. But you also do get kind of a standardized commercial data protection. Other AI tools is uncertain in terms of what protection you do get. You have to do a lot of scripting and coding in the background to make sure that you are protected in what you are doing. So just a little point in it to mention when you are going in and using the likes of other AI tools kind of in the business, but at free, you still get kind of a good range in terms of what you can do. Now, if you want to go even more further, of course, this is where the value proposition really truly does come through, is with kind of Microsoft 365 Copilot, whereby it comes at the $30 kind of range. We've got it kind of in dollars, more of the universal currency at the moment. But of course, if you guys want a bit more information in terms of the pricing, always mention it to Danny, and Danny will give you all the details in terms of what that costing is at the moment. I think it's just over £24 from what I kind of remember. But definitely worth coming in and have a look at that as well. Sorry, Dan, did you want to come in on that piece, mate?
I was just going to say, yeah, it's just over £24.
Brilliant, excellent. So £24, what you're getting out of the Microsoft 365 Copilot. Of course, this will give you pretty much everything you need to be able to get kind of the work done. So beyond just the kind of the web grounding, it also does the work grounding. So also go through absolutely all the data, summarizing multiple different types of emails that you need as well, kind of in a given context, as well as go beyond that as well. So even more so than that, though, of course, from the graph and the kind of the work grounding, it comes into the apps. So remember when I mentioned the native kind of applications, of course, as well, having that built in, that's where you've got, obviously, the paid version will give you that and grant you it as well, which is quite important. Copilot Studio, beyond just prompts, and I think this is kind of one of the things that we've seen and featured in the last kind of 12 months, is more so kind of asking Copilot to do X, Y, and Z. Give us X, Y, and Z information. Now, where it starts to change a little bit more is when we start going into the studio, which interlinks with the likes of Copilot agents. So if any of you heard of Copilot agents, instead of streaming kind of and getting kind of the retrieval of data, this is where it becomes more actionable data as well. It actually works in the background with you in different types of circumstances, which we'll also kind of show you today with the analyst type agent. So yeah, a lot of different things that you do get, as well as role-specific capabilities. Now, the role-specific capabilities actually comes into the likes of Copilot for Sales, Copilot for Service, and also Copilot for Finance in preview. Now, these additional slots usually do cost about $50 each. Very much more specific for those areas. If you're in sales, you probably want a little bit more of the pipeline. If you're in service, then of course you want it more so for kind of dealing with tickets and queries and so on and so forth, more in the support type role. And of course, finance then being more in the finance element. So all these are add-on SKUs that you can go in. Well, usually kind of you would have to pay for those. However, as a result of going forward from October, as we see the October 2025, these will all be included now in your standard Copilot for Microsoft 365 subscription. So you'll only pay £24 and you'll get all of these kind of included as well, which are absolutely brilliant for pipeline management, support kind of queries, finance as well, to be utilized in kind of the likes of Excel, which will try and get some kind of bit of an overview on how that looks like as well. But you still get quite a lot of different details and a lot of good bang for your buck when it comes to Copilot. So yeah, hopefully that doesn't change in the foreseeable, but yeah, you're getting a lot of value out of all the subscriptions kind of here too. And this is kind of a great comparison between both Copilot and ChatGPT in terms of what you do get kind of across each of them. We'll try and share the decks kind of after this meeting as well. But of course, it's great to see kind of how, what's kind of key, especially more of the corporate industry, and how we're going and utilizing, monetizing kind of and reviewing the Microsoft Graph. Obviously, these are kind of big ticks that you do get kind of across Copilot as well, as opposed to what you do kind of get in ChatGPT. So yeah, one might be a little bit cheaper, but of course, does it do everything you need it to do? That's the kind of the big question. Of course, is it doing it safe? Is it trustworthy? And so on and so forth. So there's a lot of things to kind of take in consideration that you can start to do the likes of Copilot and really review and compare between both products as well going forward. So now quickly going into the demos finally as well, just a little bit of an overview in terms of Copilot for those of you that have not seen Copilot or kind of had a bit of an overview in terms of how it works. So as example I gave before, when it comes to the likes of Outlook, always a great place to kind of start in as well. This is where you have your little Copilot kind of button that you can come in and check into, and then you can start kind of asking it to do different things kind of on the piece as well. Now, one of the cool things here is that you can come in and literally describe obviously what you're looking to get out of it. Obviously, if I'm coming back from holiday, I want it to summarize multiple different things. Now, say we're kind of in recruitment in this particular kind of example, we want to come in and find out kind of different things across the perspectives of new client requests. So this is kind of the example we're given in this one. But again, you can see how the prompt is so kind of articulate in terms of what we really need to get out of it as well. So please help me go through my unread emails today by doing the following. Categorize the emails into 3 groups: potential candidates for job positions. You want kind of complaints as well for new client requests. Summarize the key points or actions required from each of the emails as well, and suggest a priority order for responding. So you're pretty much going in, you're putting a prompt in, and this is where it starts to comb through the emails that are relevant. Again, this interlinks with the likes of Microsoft Graph, because it really wants to pick out all the information that's relevant from what you've asked it to really go in and do, which will go beyond just this email, go of course across all these emails that we've got kind of in the back end for us anyway. So starts going through, writing all that information, and we can start to see kind of it's given us all the information we've requested, as well as little footprints at the very end that we can come in and click into those to find exactly where that information's come from, what emails it come from. The cool thing is that I've done quite a few times as well is actually suggest that priority order as well across a specific kind of piece of information that I'm looking for. If there's a project that I knew that I did before I went on holiday, I've asked it, can you please kind of, give me kind of a priority order in terms of where that's kind of sitting, and it'll give it to you. It'll give you kind of the full overview of kind of where that currently sits, what are the key changes whilst I've been away. It'll give you a lot of different information. So very useful to utilize Outlook in kind of that setting, and how that kind of is built in here as well with the likes of Copilot can be incredibly useful. Very basic stuff, but again, having that nativeness kind of built into the app is absolutely huge kind of going forward as well. And you can do so much more within Outlook. Going into Teams, and of course, since we are kind of on a Teams meeting, Teams is absolutely kind of brilliant in terms of what you can do as well, especially kind of before, during, and after. From a before aspect, you can actually come in and follow different meetings. So instead of the usual kind of accept, decline, and the 3 little buttons, which takes you to tentative, you've also got the little follow button as well. And what this will do, it will actually make you follow the meeting. And of course, if permitting the administrator of that meeting has gone in and kind of click record and transcribe, you're going to get the whole transcription, the recording of the information, as well as the ability to use Copilot after the meeting as well, so that you can go and recite different types of information that you might have missed. So the follow button is a really cool aspect that you can start utilizing in the Teams meetings. Very useful if you've got multiple different meetings scattered across the week. There's meetings that you cannot attend. You can use that follow button then to kind of get that information that you need. But of course, the one caveat is that one person has to go in and literally click record and transcribe in order for that to work. Obviously, more from a data protection standpoint, it's useful because you don't want to click follow and then get all the information, then not everyone actually does. So yeah, has to be permitted on the actual call. Now the during is really, really kind of interesting as well, because similar to this one that I have right now as well, you have Copilot built into your little Teams app, and of course I can access it when on a Teams meeting. You know, if we're those folks that kind of work from home and we're getting kind of the Amazon delivery drivers knocking on the doors, and we've got to, edge out of the room quickly to go pick that up, but we missed something kind of important from the actual meeting. The beauty is the likes of Copilot for Teams is we can recite that information that we've just missed in the past 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, whatever it may be in that timeline of that meeting. We can find out that information as well, which can be incredibly useful within it. But of course, you can still utilize it in different types of kind of areas, whether it's strengths, weaknesses. Is it questions that I've missed kind of in the last hour that I want to kind of, go back over? Or if you're being put in the limelight and someone asks you kind of a question and you've missed out kind of what they've mentioned or whatnot, and you got distracted, you can still recite that through the likes of Copilot. So yeah, as you can tell, it's saved me quite a few times in the moments, but again, it's very useful depending on your scenario and how you're going in and using it as well. And very much so. An example of, we've gone in and we've clicked follow a meeting and someone's gone in and transcribed and recorded the actual meeting itself. This is where we can come into it afterwards to really utilize it. For those of you that have used Teams Premium, it's kind of in the same vein in terms of how it does work. You go into your Teams chats, and then that actual meeting will be available there to kind of go in and look at. And of course, again, speakers, topics, chapters, very similar to Teams Premium in terms of how it's built out. But the key difference again is Copilot right here too. The fact is that you can come into here and really kind of recap through the likes of Copilot. So instead of watching the entire, let's say, 3-hour session, maybe I don't want to do that. Maybe I want to find out specific kind of points within the actual kind of meeting that I want to kind of get, especially if it's massive product update kind of rollouts, kind of likes of Microsoft. Not everyone's got the time to be able to go through that entire meeting. So why not just utilize Copilot to find out exactly what I need, so that I can literally follow up or kind of understand as well. I kind of use it a lot of times with training to find out what are the kind of the key points that I need to know and understand before going in and taking an exam. It's just brilliant because it's so useful when kind of needing to use that as well. So yeah, very kind of brilliant action kind of items, launch timings, different projects as well, marketing kind of readiness, you name it. It's got absolutely everything you can come in and ask it. So depending on, again, on your role and how you're coming in and using it, it's so useful. So again, for those of you that are using kind of AI note takers, as well, this is kind of a great kind of replacement because it's all built into that kind of ecosystem. Once you've got it, it's just there in the back end as well, which is just absolutely brilliant. And it doesn't have to go into a kind of a completely different application. It's just all built in, which is absolutely brilliant. So yeah, Teams is really useful to kind of have, especially with the likes of Copilot in the back end for that as well. So that's Teams. And then going into probably another really kind of important point is Excel. For those of you that are kind of heavy Excel users, this is where a Copilot can be extremely useful as well, especially when it comes to very basic things like separating first and last names kind of in an equation. Instead of us going in and inserting those columns, well, why not get actually Copilot to do that for us? So really systematically goes through understands your data, and I'll even generate kind of formulas for you as well. If you want to get a little bit more complicated, you want to get a little bit more advanced in terms of Excel, which we'll give you an overview of how that looks like as well. Copilot will really go through systematically and kind of utilize that there as well. So you could see first name, surname, it's kind of given it to us as well there, and then you can come in and insert those columns nice and easy. So it gives you kind of that nice little overview, especially if you guys are doing mail merges or anything kind of like that. Very useful because then it saves you, again, a lot more time because it will give you more of that actionable stuff to do within the app itself. And maybe we want to be a little bit more articulate, and then we want to start coming in and kind of making sure the initial first and last kind of part of your name as well is kind of capitalized, which is kind of really quite important as well from an etiquette standpoint. And this is where we can start to kind of ask Copilot kind of, I would like to do kind of, I want that to kind of occur. But it also sometimes doesn't always give you kind of it won't do it for you all the time. However, we can ask Copilot to give us a step-by-step on how to achieve it in terms of a formula. So you can come in and give you kind of how to pretty much go in and do that. We can come in, select the area where it's asked us to do, and copy and paste the actual formula, and then we can literally get our output of it as well. So 9 times, well, not all the time will it kind of give you kind of, will it do it absolutely for you all the time, but we can still suggest, it will still do most of the work for you anyway in terms of the actual formula. So again, you can get probably a lot more complicated than this. It doesn't need to be kind of a more of a table format as well. It'll still be able to pick up the data through the columns going forward as well. So yeah, the Excel piece is really quite interesting. But going forward into the next one then, I've got a bit more of a pre-recorded overview whereby my colleague Angela's actually gone through and just given you guys a bit more of an idea in terms of conditional formatting. If anyone's actually gone in and utilized conditional formatting before in Excel, this is kind of a great area whereby we've gone through a bit of a bakery kind of cake sale and gone through how we can make this data look a lot more better, especially when it comes to illustrating different data sets. And this is kind of, I'll let the video do the work on this one. Danny, can you give me a little thumbs up that the sound is on? That would be absolutely brilliant.
as you can see, I've got an Excel
Yeah, you can.
spreadsheet, actually a table
Brilliant.
right here, all around bakery goods that we've sold between November 24 and December 24, how much we've sold it for, the revenue against them, the profit we've made, etc. As you can see, we've got quite a few bakery goods right here. Obviously, you might have a larger spreadsheet than my demo itself. Copilot works on tables, so if your format is not created into a table, then you can easily do that, and then Copilot will then be able to digest, understand, and provide you insights against those tables. So let's get started with how Copilot will be able to support with these bakery goods of revenue. Now, once I open up Copilot, it gives you some suggestions right here. I'm actually going to click on a suggested prompt, which is create formulas. In this case, Copilot is going to provide us a suggested column that we can actually include within our table itself. And in this case, it's providing us revenue growth between November and December 24. It even gives you the formula it's using. So if you did want to learn along the job, then you can do so, or you can just use it itself. So you can hover over insert column and immediately you can insert the column itself. Now that's provided me a little bit of inspiration. So I'm actually going to ask Copilot, can you add a column of revenue growth in November 24 and December 24, but in pounds, so we can see exactly how much it's grown or decreased between both months. And there we go, we've got it in pounds here, so I'm actually happy with that. So we're going to insert column. Now, if you don't use Excel much, you might not know what conditional formatting is, but you don't really need to. It's just about color coordinating some cells so the figures pop out of the table a little bit more easily. So we're going to ask Copilot to provide us some color coding all around profit that shows less than £1,000. Again, it provides you the formula it's using. I wanted it in red. As you can see in my prompt, I've said highlight it in red, and I'm just going to click on to apply, and it will start to highlight the bakery goods that shows profit in December of less than £1,000, and that's exactly what I wanted.
Just going to go a little bit on mute because we don't want to watch the full vid, but of course you could get the kind of the gist of what you do get kind of out of Excel. A conditional format absolutely useful, especially when it comes to kind of profit and loss as well, and that you can color coordinate, which makes it a little bit more neater to understand where the different types of areas are we kind of increasing or we kind of decreasing in that kind of revenue and size. And you can even start systematically coming in and actually adding in arrows as well that you can start doing, so giving you kind of a bit more of an idea in terms of maybe more specific in terms of what we need out of those types of numbers, or where we're kind of hitting. If it's kind of more on the decimal point, you can start coming in and utilizing that more specifically too. So the use of kind of Copilot within it is so kind of great because it will truly give you everything you kind of need. And again, going into revenue growth insights, giving us a bit more of an idea in terms of that, adding kind of more of that colors can be very useful, especially when we're dealing with a lot of different types of data as well. And I've got that back on going on with the actual sound. So that's kind of another good little taste that you can start coming into as well. Now, say if we wanted to take a little bit more further and we actually wanted to come in and utilize kind of more of a Python code. So we want to take a little bit more a step further and actually create a dashboard for those data subsets as well. Now, this is where it starts to change a little bit more and get a little bit more advanced in terms of what you can start to get out of it, especially when you're utilizing kind of more of that analysis aspect to it. And it'll start to actually create that for you as well momentarily. So we'll just wait for it to kind of work on it, and then actually build out that data subsheet as well. Load. As you can see, it'll start to kind of populate right at the bottom there where we've got that dashboard. And yeah, this is where you can start to really kind of come in and actually have a bit more of a real-time dashboard across all of these different types of areas of that bakery kind of goods and sales as well. So we have a bit of more of a great kind of idea of where that kind of sits and how that looks like. And this is a very much more of kind of an interactive kind of dashboard in real time. So we'll even go in and change some of the stats now as well. In fact, let me kind of just push this a little bit forward just to give you kind of an idea of where that is. We can come in and really change this quantity sold to a different kind of amount, and we'll see that kind of automatically go in and change on the dashboard as well, just to give you guys a bit of an idea of kind of how that looks and how that works. And there you go. That's kind of gone in and changed. So yeah, you can even utilize kind of the likes of kind of Python if you want to get more into kind of more the scripting and the coding in Excel, so you can get a little bit more advanced. Lot more kind of updates coming into effect for that as well. Back still on the likes of Excel. The other kind of good piece to look at and utilize as well when it comes to likes of invoices and bank statements, when you want to go in and look at discrepancies, especially when you've got multiple different types of invoices. For a lot of folks, it's kind of the end of the financial year, and they want to go in and review kind of a lot of different things. Now, this is where the likes of Copilot for Finance starts to come into kind of play as well, again, in preview. But this is kind of a piece that you guys can have a bit of a taster of when you start to kind of get Copilot now going forward in October. So again, you can come in and really kind of look at the data that you want to kind of reconcile and look through. You can adjust it if you kind of need, if you want different types of invoice numbers. But we want to review across, the past kind of 12 months and give us an idea of, are there any kind of discrepancies that we want to kind of have a look at? And it'll go through systematically looking at absolutely everything. Is there something that doesn't kind of sit right entirely as well across those kind of amounts? And it's going to give you a bit of a report summary as well that you can come in and have a look at as well. So this is really quite a cool feature, especially for folks on the call, once again, that are kind of in the finance realm and they want to kind of have that, again, that speed and that quality to be able to go through and utilize. It's going to give you quite a lot more kind of accuracy on that you can then go in and check in as well. But yeah, very useful piece to add when it comes to Excel and what that means kind of going forward as well from the likes of finance. So yeah, all included in your base Microsoft 365 Copilot license going forward from October time. And then again, you can come in, you can regenerate, you can save as a PDF, and it gives you kind of a very concise kind of type of information across each of these different areas that you can then go in and action if you need to afterwards. So yeah, quite useful on that piece. The next one, they're moving away from kind of Excel's going into a little bit of forms. So the forms piece also really quite useful, especially if you are, kind of utilizing different ways of communicating with different people, or if you've done a kind of a service, kind of a sale, whatever it may be, and you want a bit of more of a kind of a survey or kind of an overview of a form in general. This is where you can utilize kind of Copilot to actually come in and create those forms for you, like entirely straight off the bat, instead of going in. Again, more of a marketing kind of piece. For those of you that want to kind of go in and use it, but again, very, very, very easy to use. You just basically type in kind of a line, ask a Copilot to kind of literally kind of create me that form, and I'll create it for you as well and give you some kind of tips and tricks in order to be able to use. But also the data then that gets compiled afterwards is incredibly useful, because it all goes to that one administrator who created that actual form, which then you can actually have a bit more of actionable insights going afterwards with the likes of Copilot. So again, it's all integrated, but just makes your life a lot more easier as you're going forward as well. What I also like to kind of show, and I think this is really quite a good piece, because I know we're coming up to the end of time very kind of quickly as well. Few things. The one thing I wanted to show is also the creation that you do have built within Microsoft 365 Copilot, which again is incredibly useful, which I actually kind of use on an absolute daily, especially when it comes to kind of creating images, posters, infographics that you kind of need. You can do so many different things. Now, you guys might have seen this across different competitors kind of in the field, but again, it's kind of coming in and seeing kind of the speed of how it works with Copilot. It's just absolutely kind of generational in terms of how that does work, and especially the videos that we'll see coming forward as well. But you can come in, you can create stories. Again, you can even create a form in this kind of one piece as well. So this is with the Microsoft 365 Copilot license, so you do have to buy the license in order to get all this within it. But again, you can come in here and literally ask it to kind of create me kind of an infographic as well. Now I've gone in and asked it to get me some kind of key statistics for selling kind of Copilot and how it benefit kind of in the climate and the tech industry based off a case study that I've taken kind of online. Now you guys might want to chop and change that. If you've got specific kind of folks that you deal with that you want to kind of get more information from, then you can use those URLs within your subject line when you're conversing with kind of Copilot, and I'll give you kind of that dedicated information that you need. So the infographics are so cool, because then you can come in here and really kind of edit them. You can customize them, as opposed to the likes of more of the competitors in the field. You get pretty much that kind of post that comes out. You can't really go in and edit. You have to kind of get me kind of recreate me an entire new one entirely, which again can be a little bit more time consuming. Whereby here everything's interactive. You can come in and really select each of the areas that you need to come in and change, which can be incredibly useful going forward as well. So yeah, nice little little piece when it comes to the infographics. And then, of course, finally, with the videos, the fact is, instead of more of an infographic, we can just go in and change it into a full-on video. So again, I basically put in a sentence. I've asked, instead of an actual kind of infographic, create me a video. And literally Copilot will go in the back end and create you that video as well going forward, which again is so useful. I had to make sure they didn't have like 6 fingers kind of on one hand or anything like that at all. But of course, it's completely nice and clear and concise. And it even gives you a bit of a narration in the background if you need to as well. So you can entirely kind of imagine where you can actually start to kind of utilize these areas, which are incredibly cool as well. And I'll even play, and I'm hoping the sound does come out of it to show you guys kind of how that looks like too.
Climate and technology industries are rapidly evolving, demanding smarter solutions for greater impact.
How cool is that, though? It's so cool. The fact is you can come in and literally create your own videos, and you can get more specific and more concise in terms of what you're looking to get kind of out of it as well. This is very much more just a simple sentence, and it's gone in and created me kind of a video as well. So yeah, for those kind of editors kind of on the call, that can be incredibly useful in so many different types of areas, especially in your business meetings as well going forward, and how to illustrate those different areas. Very, very finally, and I think we've got kind of 1 minute left pretty much as well. I just want to showcase also the analyst agent, which is kind of the last key piece, which will be the last video, promise on that one. And then we can literally stop for questions momentarily as well. If everyone's all right to run over a few minutes after, that'd be absolutely brilliant.
Hi, I'm Ashok, and I'm here today to show you our new analyst agent in Copilot. We built Analyst to think like a skilled data scientist, so you can go from raw data to insights in minutes. Analyst leverages a state-of-the-art reasoning model that we've optimized for advanced data analysis at work. It's based on OpenAI's O3 Mini. Now, let's see the agent in action. Imagine I'm in marketing. I'm trying to understand our most loyal customers. I have this really messy data set. You can see thousands of rows and a few tabs across customers and their monthly revenue, and none of it has been cleaned or contextualized. Usually, to make sense of this data, I'd need to ask my colleague who knows Python. But let's try the analyst agent. I don't have to spend time writing the perfect prompt to get what I'm looking for. I'll just ask it to help me come up with an easy way to learn and visualize my customer base. You'll see the agent takes my question, understands the task, and constructs a plan to reach an answer. It also identifies the Python tools it may need to complete the task, just as a data analyst would. It can take any complex data set, make sense of it, and execute Python code to reason through the questions you have about the data. If I want to see more into its thought process, I can always click and see its chain of thought reasoning, as well as the Python code it's running in real time. This allows me to validate and trust in its thinking and approach. Analyst is already on to the final step and starts working on a visualization. Now I've got the answer I was looking for. With Analyst, now every employee has access to their own 24/7 data analyst. It knows Python, it's right within Copilot, and it uses chain of thought reasoning so you can check its work.
And there we go. That's kind of, thank you for everyone kind of staying to the very end on that piece, because it's kind of a good little video to show you kind of how analyst agent and agents in general do go in and work. But of course, if you guys are interested to learn a little bit more about agents and how they do kind of work as well, please let Danny know. And we're more than happy to spend a little bit more time with you to go through the likes of the analyst agent. And very, very, very finally, probably the most important piece as well is also there's a promotion kind of up and ready for you guys, for those of you that really want to get into kind of Copilot. Of course, the 15% promotion is up and available, and it has been for quite some time. And in fact, this particular promotion ends tomorrow on the 30th. So for those of you that really want to go in and start kind of getting into Copilot immediately, ground running as well, if you buy 10 or more licenses, of course, you do get that 15% off on Copilot. There is an additional promotion, however, in October for completely net new tenants, for those of you that have never used Copilot before as well. So yeah, that 15% will also apply to yourselves. But of course, speak to Danny and you can get through a little bit more on that too. But yeah, I think, Danny, I mean, I just want to make sure, I know we've got a few folks kind of still waiting on the call a little bit. I want to go through the Q&As, mate, just to see, of course, if there's any kind of questions as well, just before we wrap up.
Sure. So James asks, do you have to have a certain version of Windows for Copilot to work?
Yeah, so usually at the moment, I mean, obviously with Windows, like kind of like 10, it still kind of fundamentally kind of works, of course, with the likes of it. But ideally, 11 is where you want to be if you really want to get kind of the full efficiency at the moment going forward, especially with all the updates, security. 11 is pretty much where you kind of want to be when it comes to it at the moment. Of course, it'll still work. It'll still do everything you need to do on the likes of 10. But obviously, 11 is where you have all the updates that come through simultaneously for the likes of Copilot too.
And just to clarify, if you're using it in the web apps, so the online applications, you still get the full functionality, don't you?
Yes, yeah. So web functionality, you'll get that, and it goes for, say, if you've got someone who's utilizing kind of Outlook legacy, that's kind of a big thing as well. You want to kind of utilize that kind of on the web as opposed to the actual application. I've seen some kind of hindrance for folks using it in the application for the legacy that is, but of course the modern net new version is completely fine on either as well. And that goes the same for Copilot Chat, the free version, because Copilot Chat free version, you can also utilize that for some of the applications, but you need to use that in the web. It will not work on the native application, if that makes sense.
Awesome. Thank you, Pedro. That was the only question we had, though. If anyone has any that they want to ask but not put in the Q&A, feel free to reach out to us. That's the end of our webinar today. So thank you very much for your time and listening and staying on. If you have any requirements or questions around Copilot, please reach out to us. There is a QR code here for a form that you can fill out, which will enable us and Pedro to understand a bit more your requirements and to then also get an engagement team available to you.
Brilliant. Well, I think that's it. We got to get everyone kind of back if there's no other kind of questions. But yeah, feel free to reach out to Danny, and I hope you all enjoyed that session. And yeah, looking forward to speaking to you all soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time, guys.